Hello, my name is Chris Green with the Flood Insurance Guru. Today we're talking about the new flood insurance maps that are coming to Pitkin County and the Aspen, Colorado area. What do they mean for you? Who's going to be impacted? Well, these new flood maps are scheduled to go into place August 15, 2019. Now, these maps have been trying to get updated for a few years as FEMA and the community have gone back and forth. Before we talk about those new maps though, let's talk about why the new maps. What's the risk flooding in areas of Aspen, Colorado and Pitkin County, Colorado? Well, Colorado actually has a history of flooding. Everybody thinks because it's the mountains you don't have to worry about it. But Boulder taught us many years ago with that dam breach that there is a major risk for flooding, not just in Colorado, but in a lot of mountain areas. So a lot of the flooding that actually comes in this area of Aspen and Pitkin County many times comes from snowpack. For example, in 2019, the snowpack was probably 300% more than it has been in years past. So what happens is when this starts to melt, it creates a little bit of a flooding issue. But where the problem comes into play is during the spring or early summer when you get these thunderstorms and it rapidly increases the snowpack from on top of the mountains. And so this water starts coming downhill, filling these rivers, causing a lot of flooding issues. This just happened in Utah, causing some serious flooding during the last week of July 2019. So this is what some of the flooding risks are. You've also got a lot of flash flooding that can occur because of these afternoon thunderstorms that come through, maybe just sitting on an area for a while. And I said that winter kind of thaw out that doesn't happen until spring, early summer, because the temperatures don't generally warm up until June, July in these areas. So this is what the risk of the flooding is. So what's going to be the impact? Well, it's going to actually impact about 7% of the Pitkin County area in Aspen when it comes to these flood map updates. Now, these are going to be people that are being moved from a low risk flood zone to a high risk flood zone, which is going to be about 1,400 residents. So what exactly does this mean? Well, if you're being moved from a low-risk flood zone to a high-risk flood zone in Pitkin County or Aspen, Colorado, what this means is you're going from not having to be required to carry flood insurance to now being required, because you're going from what's called a flood zone X, which is a non-mandatory zone. This is a zone where flood insurance is optional. But remember, 30% of flooding that occurs in flood zone X because of flash flooding and things like that. Because a lot of these maps, even though they have been updated, some of the technology they use is not as advanced as it needs to be. So sometimes it's not as accurate. So now you're going to be required to carry flood insurance. So now that you're going to be required, what are the flood insurance options? Well, you have two options. You can go through the National Flood Insurance Program or FEMA and do your traditional policy. In doing this though, what you want to make sure that you're aware of, that so many people are not, is if you're being moved from a low-risk flood zone to a high-risk flood zone, is that first year you have what's called newly mapped revision rates. And what this means is you're not going to be required to have an elevation certificate, and that these rates should generally be about $500 to $550 a year for you if you have a $250,000 house with $100,000 contents. So these rates are put in place for the first 12 months to help you adjust to being required to carry flood insurance. And what's going to happen is each year it's going to drastically increase, maybe 5, 10, 15% until it adjusts to what it should be. And then it could be that you even have to get an elevation certificate after year 1. So that's option 1. Let's talk about the private market now. Private flood insurance is just like it sounds. Its insurance is backed by private insurance carriers. They have different rating characteristics. They have different technology they use. So many times the rates can be 40, 50% less than FEMA. You're not going to have an elevation certificate generally. Now, if you've had some flood loss claims, the private market may not be a good idea because they could non-renew you after some claims, compared to the National Flood Insurance Program that can't. But you can get a lot more coverage. For example, with the National Flood Insurance Program, you can only get $250,000 in building coverage. But with private flood, you can get up to $10 million if you want. So these are the two options for flood insurance in Pitkin County and the Aspen, Colorado area as these flood map changes. So here's a real question we get: can you fight it? Yes, that's something we can help you with here at the Flood Insurance Guru. as we have an educational background in flood mitigation. So we help people fight flood zone changes all day. So what exactly does this mean, fight the change? Well, let's say that FEMA says you're in a high-risk flood zone, but you're really not. Your house might sit on a hill, but maybe you've got some property that sits lower, and FEMA's saying now that you're in a high-risk flood zone. What this means is we need to show FEMA some elevation numbers that prove otherwise, that your property is not in there. And so we need to go through that 30, 60-day process of disputing this with FEMA and showing them, hey, you've got some incorrect information here. That way we can work with the mortgage company, if you have a mortgage, to get this mandatory requirement removed. Because remember, generally you're only going to be required to carry flood insurance as you have an additional interest or a mortgage on your property. So this is really what the flood insurance options are, you know, who's going to be impacted in the area and when it's going to be taking place. So if you've got questions about these upcoming flood insurance map changes for Aspen, Colorado, Pitkin County, Colorado, maybe other parts of Colorado, please reach out to us. floodinsuranceguru.com. You can go to our YouTube and our Facebook channels, The Flood Insurance Guru, where we do daily flood education videos. You can also check our blog out, as we mentioned, at our website, floodinsuranceguru.com. You can also give us a call, 205-451-4294. Remember, we have an educational background in flood mitigation, so we can help you understand your flood risk, like the one right here behind us, your flood insurance, and mitigating your property long-term to help you minimize flood insurance premiums. Thank you.